Good evening and welcome to another edition of Money Talk with Melanie. I am your business diva, Melanie Collette, and I am very, very happy to have with me today the one and only Trudy Beerman, who is here to visit Money Talk with Melanie today. I promised I would only keep her for a half hour, and I've already been too long due to technical difficulties. So I apologize for that, Trudy. Trudy, for those of you who saw the promo, Trudy is an author of several Bible-based books. One entitled "The Bible on Business," "The Creditors Are Coming," "From Pain to Purpose," and more. So I'm very excited to have her with us today. And welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Melanie, for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I apologize for the technical difficulties that we had earlier. So funny. I'm already getting messages from people who are like, "Oh no, you cut out. Where are you? What happened to you?" Technology, doggone technology. Actually, one of the people who just messaged me is one of my experts. So I will definitely be talking to him in a little bit. But anywho, the main reason why I wanted to talk to you is because I just feel as though the Bible is so important in business, that your spirituality, that your Christian life is really important, and you never see that in any of the business textbooks. Like, that's not something that ever comes up, somebody's spiritual life. Although I will say that I have interviewed a couple of people who I asked, like, what do they credit their success to and things like that, and they've told me God. And because beforehand I said, listen, if you are a spiritual person or are interested in spirituality anyway, go for it. And they have. So but I do think it's just a really important part of everyone's life, and should be. So whenever I get the opportunity to talk to someone like you, who is a believer and also a business person, I like to share that. So welcome. One of the things that I wanted to ask you, first of all, when I was researching you, I loved the story about your radio show, Debt Free Wealth, and how you gave up a career as an insurance person or insurance agent, broker. I always got that confused. A miracle I passed the test myself. I'm licensed too. I'm like, I'm really smart. Why can I not figure out the difference between a broker and an agent? But anyway, but I love that story, and about how you decided that this was the way to go. And I'd love for you to share that with my audience.
Well, right now I'm back to that after years of being out, because I could not find an insurance house that would allow me to do Debt Free Wealth Radio and be in business. So I was moving up in the ranks. They were ready to offer me a vice president contract. I'd have my own brick and mortar space, all of that. And I took the exam, and I was getting ready to seal that deal. And that is when I got on corporate radar, let's put it that way. So all along I was flying, because I was doing it, but I was flying under their radar. Right. And the moment I came up to this level, I got on corporate radar. And then all of a sudden, my doing the radio show was a problem. And they put a cease and desist on me for a good 6 months. And in that time, I was really battling with myself. This was my income stream. I didn't, it was in the... There was a timeline in the recession and all of this. I didn't know you were going to ask me that question. I think I left them around 2011. So it was probably just coming out of the recession, or still kind of in it, kind of figure my way out. So it was a hard decision, Melanie, because this was an income stream, and It's not like there was a job option out there, and it was like, how do I do this? But I really felt called. I remember it was 3 a.m. in the morning. I woke up like, I was like, okay, the words debt-free wealth were blazed across my eyeballs, and I just jumped in headwise, and I started doing all that the Lord had showed me to do. And the radio show was one way, and when they gave me they put the cease and desist on me, I really thought it through, prayed it through, and I was like, I cannot be silent. I cannot be silent, so I had to leave. It was as simple as that. And I didn't think my insurance career would totally be over at the time. I kept looking and looking and looking, and I was running into the same wall time and time again. And so I actually allowed my license to lapse and everything because I just gave up. I just figured that was a dead end for me, and I went into other things. But it's been going on to 2 years now that I've been back in insurance. Thankfully, I found a house that they didn't care, so it's cool.
Excellent. And listen, the compliance stuff I know can be murder. I mean, I was going to work for a company, but it was really, it's like working for a communist regime, some of these companies. I mean, you're really serious. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, right? It is, and they were like, you can do your show, but there was all this stuff. And I was like walking through a minefield.
Yeah.
It's really, and I get it, compliance and all of that good stuff, but man, it is. So I really actually empathize with you, because I didn't get to the point, anywhere near the point where they were talking to me. They actually approached me because they heard my show. It was kind of the opposite, and they were like, this could be great, but you got to do all this stuff. It's crazy. So right. I could totally empathize with you on that. One of the things that piqued my interest about your profile, I can't stand prosperity preachers. Like, I have a fundamental issue with that, right? And I think a lot of people have an issue when you talk about money and talk about the Bible, right? Like the two can't be together. And they certainly can. They should be. To me, the Bible, Christianity, your spiritual life, your relationship with God should be part of every part of your life. So what do you say to people who are like, you're prosperity preaching? Is there a difference between what you do and how you apply the Bible to business?
Melanie, I know you don't have all day with me, but you have stepped on my area of, okay, so here's the thing. I feel the same way you feel. I really believe that, first of all, the Bible has thousands of references to money. The main of which is God saw it fit to say we cannot serve God and money, because money can become a God. It literally can be. So, but the two don't have to be separate in terms of wherever I am, there I am. I can't compartmentalize, Trudy. I'm sorry. There may be a way to separate church and state, but when I show up, I show up. Everything of me, including my faith. I can't leave that at home or park it on a Sunday at the church parking lot. So the money thing for me, really, I felt like the answer came out of John 10:10, where Jesus talks first about the devil comes to kill, steal, and destroy. But he comes that we should have life and have it more abundantly. So the thing for me was there's two main camps, the prosperity gospel camp, which almost wants to give the impression that you're saved, and therefore the mansion and the Maserati should be right next to you. And if you don't have the mansion and the Maserati, you are not faithful enough. I have no part with that. Then you have the poverty camp, and they will argue that Jesus walked the earth as a poor man. He had nowhere to lay his head. He challenged a rich ruler to sell all and follow him. Okay, I am not in that camp either, because the fact of the matter is I've done tons of stories. Jesus had a battery of women who were financing his situation, and that's found in Luke 8. And then Judas was the treasurer, and there was money there. So there was money in his ministry. He was not a wealthy man, but that does not matter. Jesus, if people understand, is king. He left heaven, which is described as streets of gold and blah, blah, blah. When we were created and put in the Garden of Eden, there was abundance beyond compare. So Jesus stepped into our devastation. He stepped into our depravity. He stepped into our horribleness to restore us to what was originally the plan. So when I feel like John 10:10 says that he came that we should have life, and okay, so when he says we will have life, I think that's a ticket to heaven. We receive salvation, we have life. Okay, everybody has eternity. It's just where you're gonna spend it. So we get that ticket to heaven. Fantastic, awesome. But then a lot of us don't get the second part of the equation. This is the and. And is like a plus sign, okay? And some of us are just stuck on this side of the equation. And have it more abundantly. However, that's positional. My statement is prosperity is not entitled, but it is within reach. We have to position ourselves. And a lot of my work is taken out of Matthew 25:14 through 30. And, God is not operating on a socialistic system. He doesn't give us all equally. So some of us may get one and some of us may get five, but the fact is that if you have one, you still have I consider a prosperity mandate, a profit mandate actually, to do something with it. So there has to be something generated, because on my Facebook page, I have a verse, John 15:8. It says, this is how you prove that you're one of my disciples, by bearing much fruit. And that the Bible always approves itself. And, over in Matthew 25, it talks about the wicked, lazy servant. So God deposits in something into every single one of us, not equally, but as per our ability. And to just sit on our derriere and get dug 6'6" to go back to him as he created us doesn't work. Now, for me, Melanie, the moment we generate that profit, okay, because the one who had 5, Matthew 25:20 says, the man who received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I have gained 5 more. He has gained. Work. Done something, invested. Because even the one who had 1, the master said you should have at least invested it in the bank and gotten the interest. So there's no excuse, Melanie. Now, the moment we have interest or we have profit, to me, Melanie, profit is the realm of more. Profit is the realm of abundance. Not I'm saved and by magic, and I just own myself into being a Maserati and a mansion. That's not how it works. We gotta get busy. We gotta get to work. Work without faith is deadly, and faith without works is filthy rag. They go together. We've got to take what God has given us. And some of us are too much like the woman with the flask of oil. All I have is a flask of oil. Where Elijah said, hello. Go do something with that lady. And that's where the book, The Creditors, are coming from, is based on. But, I just really feel like there's 2 camps, the prosperity gospel camp and the poverty gospel camp. And I'm in neither of them. And I'm trying to help Christian income earners bridge that gap. Because there are too many Christians who feel guilty. Believe it or not, Melanie, guilty. When they make money, they feel guilty. And so they sabotage their way out of it. They lose it. They hide it. They pretend. I mean, they are embarrassed to have any kind of wealth. Now, I believe it's positional. It's not everybody's going to have it. Not everybody's going to have as much as others. But the fact of the matter is that there's nothing wrong with taking what God has blessed you with and multiplying it. There's just nothing wrong with that.
I agree. I don't think there's anything wrong with it either. And I like how you put that basically each to his own measure, whatever talents you were given, and use it that way. Now, I love the title of one of the first book, actually. I don't know if that's the first one you wrote, but it was the first one on the list, The Bible on Business. And I think Christians have this, they're excellent. I think Christians in general have this conflict, right? Where sometimes, and I've had this conversation with a person in particular I can think of, you think like you're doing business or you're doing politics is separate from the Bible and from God. I disagree. And listen, those business can be very tough because you run into, ethical and moral situations all the time. Same thing if you're involved in politics, you run into those things. And, one of the things that I usually say to this person is, is that person, you're worried about that person politically? Are they more powerful than your God? Yes or no? Like, like, why are you worried about that? They're not God. They may be very active politically, but they're not Him.
Exactly.
So what do you worry? It's nothing to worry about. You don't have to worry about people. How do you feel about that?
Well, Melanie, there are Christians in business and there are Christian businesses. They really are different. A Christian in business is someone who is the Christian and they go to whatever work they have. Okay. Now, like I said earlier, where I am, there I am. I'm not the one who's going to park my faith in the church parking lot and then walk out a different person. But, America has been built on, and I can say this because for your audience who doesn't know, I'm originally from Jamaica, so I can say this. I'm a naturalized citizen now, but I have had to learn your ways. And you get taught about separation of church and state. People take that freaking literally, and they think they have to separate even within themselves.
No.
Well, the fact of the matter is, if you are a Christian, where you go, there you are. So you're either authentic or you're not. You're either public or you're hidden, but wherever you are, there you are. Okay, so having said that, a Christian can go to a job, political office, even to their own operation, their own business that they own, walk in as who they are, but not necessarily run a Christian organization. Okay,
right.
But that doesn't mean that they are different, because it's like Joseph. When he was Pharaoh's right-hand man, Joseph was Joseph and Egypt was Egypt. So now, did Joseph influence Egypt? Yes, he did. Was Joseph blessed and favored because of his relationship with God? Yes, he was. But Egypt was not a God-fearing country. It was a country of idols. So we can be Christians in business, or we can run a Christian business. Now, the danger is, when people say they run a Christian business, it's harder. It is harder. There's some people who think they can slap the Jesus fish on their logo and claim they're running a Christian business.
And now it's a Christian business.
Now it's a Christian business. And very often it's a marketing strategy. It doesn't mean the person who owns business isn't Christian, but there is a difference between being a Christian in business and running a Christian operation, because, we always are ambassadors for Christ, and we are representing Him, whether we do it well or not. We're still human, we're still flawed, but we're still the representative. And if we think of any ambassador of a country, they are not the president, they're not the leader, but in that moment, they are representing everything that comes with that country. And so when a company says they're a Christian company, their policies, their rules, their strategies should mirror and match and be authentic to what the Bible says. The unfortunate thing is, today we cannot. It's very difficult to filter and screen and say you're only hiring Christians, because you'll get sued and you'll get all kinds of problems with that. So when you say you're running a Christian business, unless you keep it family owned, and maybe the way through some legal structure, calling it a church or a club, where you get to privatize who you select. Honestly, I have run into Christian companies. They've got the label, they've got the fish, they got the verses on the truck, everything. And then they got representatives who are cussing expletives that you want to go like this, So that is not representative, nor can they truly say they're a Christian company, and then they have representation like that. So I honestly think it's a matter of being a Christian in business versus necessarily having a Christian business.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes an awful lot of sense. And, you know, I can't believe I didn't ask you about this before the show, but of course, since you brought up the topic of, you know, Christian, whether or not you're a Christian business or, you know, business who's a Christian, do you have any, and if you don't have any thoughts, you say we can move on to something else, but do you have any thoughts on the Supreme Court case that's going on now with the Christian baker who, you know, didn't want to make that particular cake?
Yeah, and it may not be a popular position, Melanie, honestly.
I'm just
yeah, I mean, even if they're a Christian in business, running a Christian business, publicly declared, even if they had, like I said, the Jesus fish, the verses on all of that, sometimes we're putting a target on our back, honestly. When we're public about being Christian, very often we're putting a target on our back, which is why a lot of Christians are closet Christians. Unfortunately, it's one thing to not say you're Christian, but there's evidence that even if you never opened your mouth, people would still come to that conclusion, versus the people who blend in and it's like wheat and tares. You cannot tell the difference at all. Okay, so let's take, I have not studied the case specifically. I'm very familiar with it though. So even, I know there are Christians who own a business. I don't know if they're declaring that the company is a Christian business. Like I said, it's public.
No, I don't.
Yeah, if they disclosed it, verse and saying, hey, we're a Christian company, they put something up. In other words, if they declare that up front and these people walked in, I would feel like they walked in immediately within it with malicious intentions. But if they haven't disclosed it and then they simply bar doing business with somebody, I would personally have a problem with that.
No. Actually, this particular baker has refused other types of cakes too. Like a cake, somebody wanted to put something on a cake that was malicious against gays, and he refused that. So somebody wanted to do, I think he also doesn't do Halloween cakes. So it's not, so I would say it's fair to say that it's known that he's a Christian.
Declared his position.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not the first cake he's refused.
Right. So the thing is that it's like, even with my business, when I'm going to coach a client, I filter. I have surveys that I put them through and I decide, are we a match or not? I will, that's how it works, because you can't help everybody. Sure. Now, the thing is, when you have a public storefront, it really does get harder. And granted, there was no legal precedent. So I think, in all fairness to that baker, they would not have had any legal reason to feel they could not do what they did. Right. Now they're using them as a landmark case. So this is a landmark case. This is going to be, all eyes are going to be peeled on it, because it's unfair that they made the decision that they made against them, because there really was no precedent. I think the only thing that they can go on is the fact that, and in all fairness, I mean, if you have a public storefront in a retail setting, and you have your front doors open, anybody's going to walk in.
Oh, and he has actually served them before. It's just that particular cake he doesn't want to make.
Right.
It's not, it's not. It's not.
The thing is that I also see where God has channeled the wealth from the unfaithful to the faithful. So like when the children of Israel were leaving Egypt, he told them to ask them for their jewelry and everything. So they were stripping the wealth of the ungodly, and the wealth was being transferred. Honestly, money of itself, you know what I would have done? I would have given them a cake, dressed up, and say, you go find your figurines. We don't have those figurines.
I was thinking about that too.
I would have made the cake. I would have made the cake and said, go find your figurines. Honestly, and I feel a very personal connection to this at this level. Here's why. One of my sites is something I do with my mother. It's called IDoForAlways.com, and it's a pre-marriage site. And when the laws change, and I'm in Florida, when the laws change in Florida allowing for gay marriage, oh my gosh, my mother went crazy. And that's one of the reasons why I stopped being a notary, because I decided I was not going to be asked or put in a position where someone's going to ask me to marry a gay couple. However, with the website, what I did was I created, because I did the money part of the course. The course is approved by the state of Florida. And you have to get a 3-day waiver if you want to get married fast. So a lot of military deployed tends to use this course. But who's been tagging it are the gay couple, because they cannot get a church. They're going to the clerk of the court. And so what they do is they take this course. And so I anticipated that, because the first time it happened, my mother was, she's the therapist who is signing the certificate. So what I did was I built the course as an online course with an automated signature. And so when a gay couple takes the course to hand that certificate to the clerk of the court, she does not have to have a personal issue every time, because the course self-generates a certificate. But I can tell you, a lot of gays are going through that course.
Wow.
And what can you do? I mean, I just, money's money. And I just say, every time they send their money our way, I just say, yeah, Lord, we're just.
So you don't have to sign it.
Yeah, it's automated. It's already built in. And they when they're done with the certificate, their names are automatically transferred onto the document. So my mother is a marriage and family therapist. She has the authority of the state to sign that document. So her signature is built in.
Really?
Yeah.
And she doesn't have a problem with that?
She did the very first time that she had to physically sign it. And I took away that, because it's the law of Florida. I said to my mom, I said, you have two choices: take the course down or receive the transfer of wealth. Because since she created the course, she's distant from it now. It's an online distant course.
And everything's automated.
It's automated. Now, I mean, the first time she had to sign it, she had a decision, because it was the law. And I think that when it was happening, I think that couple were waiting to see what we're gonna do, because
I think that they are definitely. I think that particular group is targeting Christian organizations on purpose.
I got a phone call from one of them saying they're from the Gay Something Alliance, and do I do business with gays? I said, honey, money is money, and I will receive the transfer of wealth from anyone, because the Lord is, and I said this, the Lord is going to bless me, and He is going to allow all the wealth from you guys to transfer to me. So send it all.
What did he say?
That's what I said to her. I just knew that would be enough to send them away, and she didn't call me again. Good. She was just waiting to hear me say I wouldn't do business with her, and I wasn't going to give her what she wanted. I just threw the Bible at her and said, the Bible's going to, God says your wealth is going to be transferred to me. I don't know how He's going to do it, but it's going to come my way. Send it.
Interesting.
Send her away.
We're going to take a brief break. I really want to hear about the Creditors are coming.
Okay.
If you would talk a bit about that after the break. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I am your business diva, Melanie Collette. My guest today is author Trudy Beerman. We'll be back in a few moments.
President Trump has directed the United States to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, despite what Dragon Media and others may proclaim. Jerusalem is the eternal capital of Israel. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, the city of Jerusalem was first designated Israel's capital over 3,000 years ago by King David, as described in 2 Samuel in the Bible. Following King David, his son Solomon built the Holy Temple and installed the Ark of the Covenant there. Ever since the days of King David, the Jews have faced Jerusalem in their daily prayers. It is the center of Jewish faith and the core of Jewish history, which predates by over a millennium the Islamic persuasion. Jerusalem is where the Knesset governing body is housed, and it doesn't make sense for the United States to maintain its embassy 60 miles away in Tel Aviv. I believe that despite the violent protests and the numerous nations around the world who have denounced President Trump's decision to move the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, it will ultimately bode well for both the United States and Israel. After all, Israel is a sovereign nation with the right to choose its capital, and likewise, the U.S. is a sovereign nation with the right to choose where to place our U.S. embassies. God bless both Israel and the United States of America. I'm Ron Edwards.
Sponsored by the Tri-County Liberty Coalition.
Who likes paying taxes? Nobody. That's why Eva Rosenberg from TaxMama.com wants you to pay less of them. Read Small Business Taxes Made Easy and learn how legally hiring your spouse and children can slash your taxes. Learn how to set up a business plan that minimizes taxes, the benefits of setting up an exit plan, how to avoid getting audited, and how to legally increase your deductible expenses with better record-keeping techniques. Don't let the IRS squeeze you out of every penny. Visit TaxMama.com. Click on Ask a Tax Question to get free answers to your tax and business questions. That's TaxMama.com.
My name is David Barnett, and I've been helping people buy and sell small and medium-sized businesses since 2008. So far this year, I've gone on 5 vacations. It's because I've got my own business. When you get tired of being managed by someone else and you decide that business ownership is right for you without the risk of starting your own unproven enterprise, then come over to businessbuyeradvantage.com. There are over 100 YouTube videos on buying and selling businesses that you can watch for free. That's businessbuyeradvantage.com.
Welcome to this week's Money Talk with Melanie, Money Talk Minute. This week we're going to discuss savings mistakes to avoid. Here are just 3. First mistake, keeping your savings and checking accounts at the same bank. What do I mean by this? If you keep your savings account in the same place as your checking account, you're going to be way more tempted to transfer your savings money into your checking account and spend money that you meant to save. So you want to avoid that. It keeps you honest. Second thing, being seduced by introductory rates. Banks do this all the time. And anytime it comes to any special offers, quite frankly, it is usually some kind of trick. So be careful of that. Many banks will offer these awesome introductory savings rates to get you in the door, and then it only applies up to a certain amount of time, and then that rate goes down real low and you're really not benefiting. Finally, keeping all your savings in one place. Divide your savings up into different accounts for specific purposes. Have a separate one for emergency funds, or have a separate one to save for a car, something like that. The reason you want to do that is that if all your money is in one single savings account, it's very easy to accidentally spend something that was appropriated for one thing on something else. So that's this week's Money Talk Minute. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. Please be sure to watch Money Talk with Melanie Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio.
Okay, we're back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, and we have Trudy Beerman with us today. She is the author of many Bible-based business books. I'm very excited to have her on the show today. One thing that I definitely wanted to speak with you about, Trudy, is your book, The Creditors Are Coming. That is another really dicey situation if you're a Christian, I think. Oftentimes, especially since, the Bible says you should pay back all your, pay your debts and be of your word and all of these types of things. So I was wondering what kind of counsel your book offers in that regard for Christians.
Well, Melanie, that actually, I say it's a Bible story that could have been in the tabloids today, in the news today. It's actually a story taken out of 1 Kings chapter 4, 1-7, and it's the story of the woman with the flask of oil. Now, I'll just quickly share the story. It's basically her husband was a man of God. He had passed away with this massive debt. The creditors were coming to take her son. She goes to the gates because Elijah's there, and she knows. He says, my husband's a man of God. What am I to do? He says, what do you have? She says, all I have is a flask of oil. And he says to her, get your sons, go get all these jars, lock yourself in the home, fill the jars. When you're done, sell the oil. Well, she filled up the jars, and then she came back to him. She says, that's done. What am I to do next? He says, now go sell the jars and live on the rest. Okay, so that's the backstory. the Bible has a lot to say about debt and borrowing, Melanie. And that could be many shows, but let me just try and bring it into a nutshell. Romans 13:8 does say, "Oh, no man any debt." Now, debt-free wealth, when I said that blazed across my eyeballs several years ago, I learned later, the Lord gave me the end result, and then he gave me the process. So my business is now rebranded under profitable stewardship, because it is when you are a profitable steward that you will move towards debt-free wealth. So being debt-free is its own thing. Now, some of your audience may be aware of a man named Dave Ramsey, and he pushes this being debt-free in a huge way. I've challenged him on a number of his thought processes on it. I agree Christians should be debt-free.
Yeah, he says no debt ever under any circumstance at all, like ever. I in full disclosure, now
I have problems with some of his processes. Let's put it that way. The end result of being debt-free is absolutely the end goal. It is the end goal. But the Bible does make room for debt. It's not the best and ideal. Let's just start with the children of Israel, okay? Well, Joseph was in charge, but how did the children of Israel end up in slavery? Guess what? The famine that was predicted happened. The 7 great years turned out to be 7 lean years afterwards. Then the children of Israel, who had now populated Egypt, first them as well as the Egyptians, first sold their land. Then they sold their children. Then they sold themselves into slavery. So slavery is throughout the Bible, Melanie, but every documentation of slavery in the Bible is economic. It's not racial. It's not, I'm better than you, therefore I'm going to put, it's always economical. The strong has enslaved the weak just because they can for their own economical benefit. It has never been a racial issue. But today, this slavery continues. We, just like the children of Israel, find ourselves needing to eat because there's a famine on the land, and so that they could eat. Because remember, when they did go to Joseph, because Joseph was the one who was doling out the corn from the silos. He was the one, but he would give them back a little bit of seed so that they could continue to feed themselves. So the process of debt allowed these children of Israel to survive the famine. Yes, they went into slavery, which till today, a lot of people to have that next meal are going to swipe that credit card. It is economic slavery. Is it the ideal? No, it never has been. But even in that situation with Joseph, it was the survival mechanism pre-built in, because God gave Joseph the vision and say, set aside 20% of this bounty because there's going to come the day. The unfortunate thing, Melanie, is that we have that template ahead of us and none of us are really practicing it. I am guilty. I stand guilty. So before the recession, Melanie, our family, just like the 7 great years, I honestly believe God buffered my family. We were just, it was coming in. It was coming in. We were doing very well. But we were not good stewards. I was not good stewards. We were not good stewards, Melanie. We were not setting aside. I love your thing about saving. I agree with what you said. I have another strategy with that, but I agree 100% with what you said about taking that savings, setting it aside, just like what Joseph did. He removed that 20% and he put it somewhere else. But the process of doing that, we're not doing that.
Oh,
we're
sure.
not doing that. Failure to do that has a direct end result, Melanie. If we do not remove something from our income and set it aside for later, there is a clear path that we're going to follow, and that is economic slavery. The other thing is that the Bible had where Jews owned Jews as slaves. It had nothing to do with racial. There were Jews that owned Jews as slaves, and the Bible said that if a Jew owned a Jewish slave, he was to treat him even better than the others because this was his brother. Okay? And if a Jew needed to borrow money from another Jew, there was not to be any interest. So there is a in borrowing, so that Jew would have to borrow. When the story of Boaz, Naomi comes, They have nothing. And Boaz was their redeemer kinsman. What does that mean? He was a family member rather than a perfect stranger was to come in. But they don't borrow. It wasn't a borrow. When that kinsman took it up, they now own that stuff, but at least it was kept in the family. So here's this own conversation, because people borrow from family and treat their family very badly after they borrowed from them. But the redeemer kinsman was going to take over that thing and own it, but at least save it within the realm of the family, and maybe that family member would even continue to have the pleasure of being a part of it, but they wouldn't own it anymore. So there is a strategy for that, and even when someone was going into business and all of that. So I have what I call justified debt. And justified debt is something I had to process mentally, because student debt is on the rise. And the reason for that is it is the easiest debt to get in the United States. It does not matter your credit history. You could have had a fresh bankruptcy. You go to school, they're going to open the what is it? It's not Fannie Mae, it's Sallie Mae. They're going to open it up. And I have friends today, for example, who went to law school, and they bankrolled their life on student loan money. So they paid their rent, they bought their meals, they bought their clothes, they bought their gas, they bought their car. They did all of that because this money was freely coming, freely available, and then they had to go pay the taxes, had to pay afterwards. And unfortunately, educational debt is the one that you cannot bankrupt yourself out of.
Right.
So the thing, that's what I call justified debt. So justified debt in that case would have been that student had to have first decided not to go back to school just to get money, free access to money. And a lot of students are going back to school, they haven't gotten a job, and so rather than sit idly, they figure, okay, I'll go back to school. But they go back to school without any strategic planning. They haven't thought through the career and what path they really need to take. They're just going to school because now they're busy, they're occupied, they don't have to feel embarrassed about not being at work, and then they take this money, but then they get out of school and now they still have no plan. So to me, if you're going to say, okay, I want to go to school, be strategic. Only take exactly the 11th dollar, just exactly what you need or less. Go take that little stupid job here or there to fill in the blank, but not bankroll your life on this money. But that's what's happening. And so debt is not the ideal path for the Christian, but I feel like there is a room for justified debt. But at the end of it all, the ultimate goal is debt-free wealth. Now, not just to be debt-free. So like Dave Ramsey has this thing of, I feel it's a scarcity process. This is, forgive me if you don't agree. I've listened to him and I've stopped listening to him. So he's changed.
No, he has not changed. I teach financial literacy now, and the curriculum is a Dave Ramsey curriculum. And no, he's still saying the same thing.
Say no, cut it out, get rid of the cable.
If you can't pay cash, you can't afford it. That's
it's like
mantra.
When you closed your fist and told your kids no for the 500th time, Melanie, you may have the debt-free screech, hey, I'm debt-free. But that person, their mindset is this. That person will have the problem of investing in themselves, of buying that thing for their children. No. The thing for me is profit. You see, it's not you make $2,000, find a way to live on $1,800. That's ideal.
Right.
But that to me is a strategy that must include a way to make more money. So the creditors are coming. This woman now is told back. So she had her flask of oil. And all of us, Melanie, have our flask of oil. In her mind, it was inadequate. All I have is a flask of oil. And that's what a lot of us do. We look at ourselves and we think we're inadequate. We feel inadequate. We don't have enough. We don't already have it. But what this story tells us is not only that debt is bad, because I talk about the man, the mountain, what was the other one? Her husband. This is the thing, Melanie, and this is why I love doing insurance. Her husband died. He was a man of God, and this man of God ran up this massive debt and left his wife and young children in debt. Come on, people. Christians, you need to do better than that. You need to live like model citizens. Come on. So this man of God, a well-known man of God, leader at the gates,
Right.
He dies, leaves his kids and wife in this problem. She looks on and says, thankfully she wasn't one of those throw up her hands in the air and say, that's it, I'm done, I can't do anything. She went to the man of God. And just we have the same opportunity. We can go to God and say, God, this is what I have. This is what you blessed me with. Okay? And that was what she needed to do. And the moment she released that to faith is when it began to multiply to the level of her faith. So we have to be just like the boy with the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. We all have our resource. We all got the Bible tells us we have been given something per our ability. We all have something. And so she was now to take this, and once she had this multiplication, what did the man of God tell her? To go and sell the oil. Melanie, you try and tell anybody to go sell. Sorry. Tell people to go and take on a sales career, and they think you're telling them madness. They want a job. Well, the job is fine. Nothing's wrong with that. But sales removes the ceiling. Sales opens up the opportunity for that more money. And she received that. She went to sell. And because of the selling, the process of selling, she was able not only to pay off her husband's massive debt, but have money to live on. Okay? And a lot of people have a problem with selling.
That is an excellent point. Unfortunately, we come to the close of the show, but I definitely would love to have you back on and talk about some other financial issues in a Christian context. Where can people find your books?
Okay, well, they're on your favorite bookstore, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, whatever. They're there.
Fantastic. Trudy Beerman, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it. I want everyone to remember that all of this is very important because, after all, it is your money. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, lady.
Thank you. You have a great night.
You too.